Hello, kids. It's Grandpa Wes again. What I want to share with you tonight might be titled "From the Mouth of Babes." If you haven't heard that saying, you will, and it's usually said to kind of point out how sometimes it's the youngest in our group, the babes, the little children, that come forward with the best wisdom, the best observations. And certainly that's what happened in the story I'm about to share with you. Let me start off by sharing with you a model. This I bought just a few years ago, and it is a Lockheed Constellation aircraft. And I think it's the most beautiful airliner there ever was. Not near as big, doesn't have jet engines. It's got these turboprop engines, four of them. It's famous for having its triple tail, three uh, rudders or vertical stabilizers there on the back. And believe it or not, my dad got his start working for Transworld Airlines when he got out of college at the overhaul base where he was a mechanic helping to overhaul these aircraft. And so he was very familiar with the Lockheed Constellation. When I was a little boy in Kansas City, which is where TWA's overhaul base was, I remember in the backyard seeing these aircraft, the three-tailed Lockheeds, coming in for a landing in Kansas City. I even rode on one night on a flight from St. Louis to Kansas City with my mother. And the interesting thing about these is these engines are famous for at nighttime you can see flames coming out from these engines. It looks like the engines are on fire, but it's actually a normal part of their operation. But boy, it's frightening to look out the window and see your engines on fire. Really an amazing aircraft. So, with that in mind, when I was a young father, I was in a hobby shop, and Father's Day was approaching, and I saw a model in the store of a Lockheed Constellation. Not this model, it was a little smaller than this one, but it was also in TWA markings and so forth. And I looked at that and I thought, man, that would be fun to give to Dad. It would remind him of his getting a start in Transworld Airlines and such a beautiful airplane. And so I bought the model. And I took it home and I got to thinking, well, Dad is a busy, busy guy. He doesn't need another project. I think it would be more meaningful to him to have it fully built, assembled, and ready to go so he can put it on his desk in his home. And so I decided I would put the model together for him. Now, I hadn't done a model in many, many years. I was a teenager last time, built a model car or a model airplane or whatever. But I got the glue. I brought out my X-Acto knives to trim the plastic. I brought even a jeweler's loop to put on so I could see things up close. I had all my tools, everything laid out to do this. So kitchen table, one night, I lay everything out and I get to working. And as I'm working on this, I found it a little more frustrating than I remembered it being. Things just weren't, the parts weren't fitting quite right. I would get a little too much glue on it and then the glue would spill over and then I try to wipe it off and it just smeared and became hard and just was frustrating. The decals wouldn't go on straight. And so as I'm doing this, my 5-year-old son, Mitch, comes up and starts doing what Mitch is so famous at doing, yak, 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 yak. Hi, Dad, what you doing? I'm building a model. What's it of? Well, it's an airplane, you can see that. And I'm trying to do this stuff. And he's just asking question after question. And I'm trying to answer him as I'm trying to concentrate. And it is frustrating and yakety, yakety, yak in my ear. And he's looking at the tools there. He says, Dad, are those knives sharp? Yes, Mitch, they're very sharp. Don't touch them. Don't touch anything on this. And I kept working. And he said, are they the sharpest knives in the world? Yes, Mitch, those are extremely sharp. They'll cut you. Don't even get close to them. Dad, do you know what the sharpest thing in the world is? I had had enough. I love my boy, but I'm busy. He's a pest. And I'm forming the words to turn to him, and the words are on the end of my tongue to tell him, just shut up and leave me alone. Get out of here. And just as I was about to say words of that to that effect, he said, words are the sharpest things in the world. I'm looking at him, about to unleash sharp words, and I couldn't believe what I heard. I said, what did you say? He said, words are the sharpest things in the world. They're also the softest. It just depends on which ones you use. This is a 5-year-old. And smart kid, but I knew he didn't make that up himself. I said, where did you hear that? He said, from my teacher at church. And I put my boy up on my lap and realized that the model wasn't the most important thing. And the frustration was gone by this time, as a young boy who had learned something marvelous from a great teacher at church then taught that to his dad in a very powerful way, at a very exactly poignant time. And so he and I worked together on building that model. Eventually we finished that up. It was very imperfect, but generally in order. And it sat on my dad's desk for many years till he passed away. And I think every time I even look at this model that I later bought for myself, I think about that night, and I think about that lesson learned, and how grateful I am for the mouth of babes that sometimes teach us such important things, but also for teachers of our young people, good teachers that probably have no idea that the things that they're sharing are lessons that even pass on to families. And that teacher had no way of knowing how well she would instruct a young father those many years ago in how to be better, how to mark his words and check his temper and so forth. So anyway, from the mouth of babes, and remember, words are the sharpest things, and they're also the softest. Just depends on which ones you use. Use the best.